replace the fluids because you are losing it. So if you don't replace them, it means that you are heading towards dehydration, which is one of the most dangerous aspects of diarrhea.
Fantastic. It's good to have you here again. All right, now let's get right into it.
Yeah.
Diarrhea, what is it? What do we need to know about it? And how does nutrition impact diarrhea?
All right, a very good morning to everyone. Is it Eid al-Fitr?
Yes.
Is it the Fitr?
Yes.
All right, so happy Eid al-Fitr to our Muslim friends and family. All right, when it comes to diarrhea, I made a statement some time ago. I want to clarify that concerning the guts and then probiotics. I think I made mention of that the guts are the live bacteria found in the intestine, which is actually not the correct thing. It's actually the guts, actually the gastrointestinal tract. That's from the mouth down through to the anus. Just because today's topic is going to pertain to that, I just want to clarify that. And the probiotics are actually the live bacteria that are found in some foods or some supplements that could help with regards to any issues in the large intestine. All right, so back to diarrhea. I think diarrhea is one of the conditions that most people underrate. But according to the World Health Organization, it's one of, or this is the second leading cause of death in children under 5. Wow. So that's how serious diarrhea can be. And we have types of diarrhea. But before that, it's basically the passing of loose or watery stools more than 3 times in a day. That could affect your daily activity, which is quite uncomfortable. On a regular day, your stool should be either semi-solid, not necessarily. If it's solid, it means that you're heading towards the constipation. And if it's too watery or too liquid, then you're at the diarrhea stage. So basically, when you're passing a stool that is watery more than 3 times in a day, then we could diagnose you of diarrhea. But we have types of diarrhea. We have the acute watery diarrhea. We have the dysentery one that contains blood. So if you realize that you start passing a stool that contains blood, then there is an alarm. And we have the persistent diarrhea. It also contains blood, but with that, it's more than 2 weeks. For the acute one, could be within hours to days. The dysentery one could also be hours to days, which has blood in it. But with the persistent one, that's where it's very serious. Because for more than 2 weeks, it means that you are really losing a lot. Because with watery stool, it means that you are losing some fluid in there, and you're also losing some electrolytes as well. If you talk about electrolytes, sodium, potassium, these are minerals that are found, basically absorbed in the large intestine. So during the diarrhea season, you tend to lose these electrolytes or these minerals, which are very essential to our growth and development. So with you losing these, it poses you to a lot of conditions or puts you at risk, which can lead to death, as I made mention earlier on. Yes. When it comes to management, I made mention of watery, so you are losing fluids, and so it means that we need to replace these fluids and these electrolytes, which are very, very important.
So that means you need to drink more water when you have diarrhea?
Exactly. Not necessarily. If you are talking about solid, it should be refined. We don't want this time. We don't want the ones that are high in fiber, and you need to replace the fluids because you are losing it. So if you don't replace them, it means that you are heading towards dehydration, which is one of the most dangerous aspects of diarrhea. If you are beginning to lose these fluids, then it increases your rate of being at risk of losing your life. So you need to replace this fluid in bits, not necessarily drinking it in bulk, but you have to sip it alongside to help to replace the lost one. And with the diarrhea, you have a lot of causes. And if you don't tackle the underlying cause, if you're just drinking water, then you are doing nothing. Because it's not only food or contaminated food that causes diarrhea. If you have infection, which could be caused from contaminated food or water, some side effects or some medications also cause diarrhea. If you have some viral or parasitic infection, could also cause diarrhea. And also, we have something we call lactose intolerance. Those who are intolerant to, let's say, milk and then milk products. So they also have diarrhea. And we also have some surgical procedures that also poses you to diarrhea. So if you have diarrhea, you need to find the underlying cause of the diarrhea. Then if that is tackled, Then when you add the nutrition aspect to it, then we are heading towards to
If you have somebody
result.
who's Risha,
yeah. So if you run, if it's 2 times, we can't say that is diarrhea.
okay,
It has to be more than 3
it has
times.
to be more than 3
And,
times, okay.
and it could also be like an allergic reaction to something. If it doesn't affect your daily activities,
Yeah.
we don't really consider that as diarrhea. However, we already encourage that you take enough fluids, at least 8 glasses of water in a day, 4 to 6 sachets of water
Yeah.
in a day. And so if you have that and you're already hydrating yourself, we wouldn't consider. But if it's more than 3 times, and not only in the day, but it's persistent, subsequent days, it's still continuous, and then you realize that no, this is getting out of hand. You realize sometimes during this season you sweat, some also vomit. You lose some of these minerals through this because sodium and chloride and potassium are easily lost through sweating. Even through when you're vomiting, it's the stomach substance that's coming out, or when you eat. And so they also contain fluids and contains these minerals we're talking about. So during this season, if you have all of this at the same time, then we could also say, once prevention, we need to really look at our food, water. The water needs to be clean. We need to make sure that these are not contaminated. Make sure that we always warm our food. We shouldn't use cold, too cold, and too hot.
I eat cold food a lot.
You need to warm. If only it's not ice cream or anything that has to be taken cold, and it's a main meal that has other ingredients that can increase bacteria activity exactly.
Such
you
as
need to your soup, your stews, your rice. Yeah, you need to warm them well before you take them. And if you have taken any medication, that it increases your risk of having this, or you realize after taking the medication you are having consistent watery stool, then you need to check that for your practitioner to look at the dose or just change the medication. So with the prevention aspect, look at the cause and then we tackle it from that. But when you are experiencing it, first thing is to just make sure that you hydrate yourself throughout the day. And because of the electrolytes, if you want to make homemade one, you can just add little salt and little sugar to the water. Let's say half teaspoon of sugar and then 1/3 teaspoon of salt into 500 ml of water. Then you can take at a time throughout the day.
Like a homemade ORS.
Yes, a homemade ORS. If maybe at that point there's no access to get one, you can do that for the meantime. And then when it comes to the food as well, you need to take, now refined food comes in. You don't need to take food that are high in fiber because it also worsens. Exactly. So you need to take the ones that has less fiber, white rice, bread, more of clear liquid foods. So that's where the juices come in, watermelon juice. Banana has less fiber, so you can take in banana smoothie. And with that, it also contains potassium. So it helps replace the potassium that you are losing. And also, if you get the diarrhea, you don't want to take drinks that are high in caffeine or caffeinated teas. All of these also irritates the bowel. Also, fried foods or fatty foods, they also irritate the bowel. So we need to stay away from them from that period until the diarrhea is finally resolved. We don't encourage self-medication in the first place. Even though you were once prescribed to get it and it worked for you, doesn't mean that with the second occurrence you will just go ahead and get it. I wouldn't encourage that. Let's start with the nutritional one. Then we get worse, then you have to move to the facility, health facility or hospital for them to prescribe the medication for you, because we don't encourage self-medication.
When we were kids, one of the things that I remember very, very well from my childhood is that my parents would take Fanta and Coke, they will mix a glass of Fanta and Coke, and then they'll put salt in it, and then you drink.
Oh, interesting. This is my first time hearing this.
So the idea, I think, is that, you know, people take Coke when they have running tummy, right? So there's supposed to be something about the Coke that helps.
I think the sugar, because it's I made mention if you're even doing your ORS, there's some amount of sugar that you add. So maybe the sugar there will do
with
something.
that, they also add salt to it.
Wow.
Yeah, so you put salt in Coke.
It's like a flavored
You know,
ORS.
Yeah, and then you drink.
Interesting.
Coke
Because
flavored.
a child likes the Coke and Fanta.
Right.
You
Yeah.
see.
And it
You
works.
put it's an electrolyte.
Yeah,
And that's what you're
exactly.
doing. Is that you are replacing
Yeah.
the lost electrolyte.
Yeah, continue with that practice because kids, if you use that as medication for them, it's good. They'll tend to ask for
To go
more
for
of
that.
those
Yeah.
drinks. Yes.
Well, maybe
let's
it's,
do more
I mean,
of
it's
the
true.
juices.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's
let's do
true.
the normal ORS,
Yeah.
and then encourage them to take
Yeah.
water, which
Yeah.
is more.
But I also
appropriate.
heard that just plain water on its own
Yeah,
isn't necessarily what you want to do if you have diarrhea.
exactly.
Talk to us about that. as we
Yeah,
wrap
so
up.
I think it all boils down to the electrolytes that we are talking about. Even though the water itself is also needed, we also want the electrolytes. That's where we can also talk about coconut water, which also has electrolytes in the
Right.
sodium, potassium, and other minerals in there. Yeah, so you can take water, but you need to fortify it with these minerals to help to replace the minerals at the same time, not only looking at the hydration aspect.
But the
Yeah, so
electrolytes
that's
as well.
where that comes in, where you need not to just take only water, but just fortify the water with these minerals. Yeah.
Yeah. A
Oh,
little while
that's
longer.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay in a little while.
Yeah.
Just make a comment on that. Before.
Yeah, so I think you've even settled.
You just
yeah,
said it. You just
on it.
said everything. I think you've just said everything because it actually makes sense.
So
That means
we need to tackle the underlying cause. And then, so you just have to see the right person, a practitioner or a dietitian. And then as we tackle the underlying cause, then we also add the nutritional aspects. I think that you will be fine.
Yeah.
Just for that moment, when the diarrhea is resolved, then we're back
go
to the normal. Yeah.
All right.
right.
Esther, thank you. How do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so you can get in touch with me on all my social media handles. Instagram, Opulent Dietitian, on YouTube, Opulent Dietitian, and also Zen Diet Consult, our website, so zendietconsult.com. Then you could just book an